your portfolio is 10,000 times more important than any diploma you could possibly have.
Typically, the optimization doesn't matter so much. It matters much more to actually release it and get feedback that this game has potential, but it's just so laggy.
In a good team, it's really important that the roles and the people within those roles respect other roles.
So you're an artist and you're speaking with a programmer, or you're a sound engineer and you're speaking with a programmer. Doesn't matter. So you need to know some fundamentals which will help you to actually communicate and convey yourself properly.
You can really love playing Call of Duty and really suck at it. That's completely fine. Welcome! Today we will have a myth-busting episode. Presenting is me, Vojta, Education Coordinator and Studio Manager at GameReady, and I am joined by Arty, a GameReady CEO and founder. Arty?
Hi. Hi there.
We have been in the industry for quite a while, and we see and hear many of our students asking these questions. So today we will try to clear up as many of them as we can. We will be focusing all our myths on career and skills. So let's get started. Let's look at our first question.
Let's go.
So, you ready, Arty? Let's go.
Yep.
Okay. So our first question. Being good at games means you will be good at making them. What do you think?
I think it's bullshit. I think it's bullshit. No, wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're good at games, if you're good at playing them, okay, you know what? If you love games, it's already a predisposition for being at least a better developer than one that doesn't love games. Now, being good at gaming doesn't have anything to do with that. You can be pretty poor in gaming, but if you like it, so you'll be just producing better value. But at the same time, should you be a good one to... Well, the question is if it makes you a good developer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, no, because so many people, they love gaming, they are good at gaming, but game development is not for them, so it's not for everybody, right? But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. It's almost unrelated. I would even argue that if you are worse at playing games, sort of like your gaming skills, how good you are at finishing the game, it's probably better for you as a game developer. Because if you are too good at it, it tends to be too easy to fly through the levels. And I definitely do see a lot of game developers, especially those that are studying as game designers, tend to struggle in making games too hard, where for them it becomes too easy, and the sort of the worse you are at the game at actually playing games, the easier it is for you to prepare the difficulty on the right level for someone who has never seen your game.
Yeah, but I think it self-balances because after all, different games have different difficulty for different audiences. So if you're making Dark Souls, it means that you probably enjoy playing stuff like Dark Souls, or pretty much a hardcore gamer yourself, and you make game for other hardcore gamers. So as long as you kind of meet the profile of your target audiences, right, it means that you will have an advantage in feeling, or at least simulating what they will feel by your intention. And if you're not so good at, let's say, competitive gaming, or you're doing more casual gaming yourself, and that's also what you develop, it also gives you an advantage to make games for casual players like you. So I think that people in general, well, the game developers should be aiming at producing games that they personally enjoy when it comes to difficulty or genres in general.
So I would almost separate it that it is very, very important for game developer to enjoy games and specifically enjoy the genre he's working at. Does he need to be good at it? Not necessarily. Like you can really love playing Call of Duty and really suck at it. Like, that's completely fine. So being good, not important at all. Enjoying it, really important.
Yeah, one thing is that when you're doing competitive gaming, or well, you're developing. When you're developing, so when you're developing hard competitive games, or games which are not even multiplayer, or maybe they're single player, but they are built for speedrunners who are gonna be a big channel for your marketing, you still have to do some balancing. And people who are also experienced in gaming, and especially competitive gaming, they understand better what qualities balance should have. So they're just better in balancing their game. So that's an advantage. Let's go to the next one.
Yeah, sure, let's go. So, game designers must know programming. What do you think?
No. Next one.
Okay, I actually am not sure if I agree.
Okay,
so
what's your take?
So I don't think a game designer has to be a John Carmack. They have to like really good understanding of programming. But I do think having a understanding of how programming works is, if not fundamental, very important as you progress through your career. Because because game development is fundamentally collaborative. No one is going to be game designer without working with a programmer. Well, who knows now with AI, but let's assume that it's still going to be case for a while. And you as a game designer having an understanding what the programmer does will make your communication 1,000 times better.
And vice versa.
And vice versa, of course, yes. Programmers should have a good understanding of, not good understanding of game design, they need to understand why the game designer does the things they do. Otherwise, it's gonna be like some weird adversary relationship where no one understands each other and everyone else thinks that the other one is an idiot.
Yeah, exactly, right. But there's a difference between speaking the language and actually living the lifestyle. So, for example, if you're a trader and you, in the medieval times, okay, and you study a language which will help you in your trade when you go and, well, have trade with them. So, you know the language that is required for you to trade. You don't have to know all their lifestyle. Now, the more you know about their lifestyle, the better it will be for you to trade with them, but this is already diminishing results. So the main part is knowing some basics, right, the fundamentals. Yeah. So same here. So when you're a programmer, you're speaking with an artist, or you're an artist and you're speaking with a programmer, or you're a sound engineer and you're speaking with a programmer. Doesn't matter. So you need to know some fundamentals which will help you to actually communicate and convey yourself properly, so that the other party actually understands what you need from them, or what is your problem that you need help with, or whatever it is. I think that's the part that is required. But more than that, it's probably better for each profession to actually delve deeper in their own field than to study the other fields further. So get some 20% fundamentals, which gives you 80% of the results for the communication, and then get deeper into your own responsibility.
Yeah, for sure, I agree. And it can very much go in the opposite direction, where a game designer thinks they understand the programming requirements deeper than they actually do, and then they keep on bothering the actual programmer with suggestions that are actually not that smart, but because their understanding isn't that deep, they do think that they can suggest it, and that also creates a bad relationship.
Typically the other way around. Typically it's the programmers who think that, hey man, can you change one polygon here on the model? And no, I can't, because it's so much work. By the way, I'm a programmer. Yeah, so I learned it the hard way by speaking with artists that have been so angry with me because of my stupid, simple, small requests. So I learned it the hard way.
Yeah, no, artists generally tend to be very attached to their models. So I think there is often a bit of a exchange that needs to happen, because sometimes they don't want to move from what they really like into what the game requires. But it's definitely a push and pull. So it's not at all that the programmer is always right, the game designer is always right, nothing like that. It's a balance between each other. And I would say in a good team, it's really important that the roles and the people within those roles respect other roles. So like, you can make a suggestion to a game designer as a programmer, but you have to respect that they will not agree with you, or they will go in a different direction. And you have to agree that that is what they are going to decide. Because it's, you also have to respect
that they probably know better than you.
They probably know better than you, yeah. In the same way you know better than them in programming or in system design. Okay, let's move on then. So this is connected with our first question. You must be a gamer to work in games.
To work in game development, you say?
Yes. Let's say work in game development. Working in games may be a bit more of an adjacent title. So let's focus on game development.
I think it's very important to put here a distinction between what's actually working in the game industry, because games is game development is a big industry. It has sub-industries within it. So it can be using game engines for cinematic production. It can be for simulations, and it can be for complete workspace-oriented applications like training staff in companies like Intel. Okay, so it mustn't be even games as in the Steam sense or mobile games, right? So really depends. Now, if we speak specifically about games as in games, right?
Games,
then
yes.
I still don't think that you have to be a gamer for that. It certainly gives you some advantages. It certainly enlarges your arsenal of creativity, because you're more exposed to what is even possible in games and how different games or studios have solved different problems. Like, for example, if you played Call of Duty 1 or 2 or whatever, and you see that there is an open field and you can just go any direction, but the game still has to limit you within your game zone, doesn't have to let you, it has to confine you to the game zone, game area. It can put walls, but if it's an open field, then there's no possibility to put walls. But there you just go there and there's a minefield, and then you just blow up on the minefield. So suddenly it's like a wall, but it's not a wall. So aesthetically it's not a wall, practically it is, right? But if you didn't play it and you implement your own game now and you're like, oh, how do I confine my players to this zone? I don't know how. So you might come up with the same solution, but the more games you play, the more solutions you have already gone through, and it expands your creativity, because creativity is the function of our past experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say you don't necessarily need to play games, but you need to understand games. You need to understand why games work the way they are. Like if you make a shooter games, you need to understand exactly as you say how these games communicate to player that something is a walkable and something isn't walkable space. There is a common language that genres have, and you need to understand that language. And you can even see it if you play games across multiple genres. If you play, I don't know, civilization-like games versus RTS-like games, which is all within a strategy, but those two subgenres have completely different language in how the gamers interact with the systems. And if you don't play them, you will have a very hard time understanding it. So it's not necessarily, but if you don't play those games, you need to find a way to learn that system. Otherwise, you learn that language. Otherwise, you will not be able to make a good games, because you will not know the conventions.
Yeah, and you don't know what is also frustrating in those games. So if there are just common pain points which people kind of hate in the genre, and you played those, so you can actually make a game which doesn't have that pain point anymore, because it solves that pain point. Also, I would actually mention for contrary that if you come with small experience in the genre and you develop a game in the genre, even though you're not an experienced gamer in that one, you might bring in some fresher point of view from your experience from other stuff, which then actually might be sometimes beneficial, because then you are copying the other genre, the other games in that genre less, which makes your game potentially, well, statistically more unique. Doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that it will be a better game, but it will be more unique, which is also important. So it's kind of, there's pros and cons for both, but the last question is, well, sub question is, should you actually play games just to be a good developer? Probably no. Just play games if you enjoy playing them. But if your goal is to be a good developer, just use whatever you have. If you have the experience, cool. If you don't have the experience, cool. Sure, no problem. Just focus on how you make the best experience and just focus on developing games. If you like playing games, then sure, play games as well. Do both.
Yeah,
Ideal.
Absolutely. And also, it's good to have these things mixed up on the actual team. It's absolutely okay if one person on the team has very little experience with a strategy game. Let's say we are making something like Age of Empires. We don't necessarily need anyone to, we don't need a specific person to have experience with all the previous Age of Empires, as long as there is a previous or another developer that has that experience, because then you actually can lead to some really new mix of experiences. But you need to understand the pain points, you need to understand why people like this.
Actually, most of the original developers of those classics like Age of Empires, they've now been gamers themselves.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, because, I mean, RTS players up until this day, including me, by the way, play Age of Empires 2, which came out like 2020. 2002.
Yeah.
Not 20.
It still hasn't been hit,
It's 4 years ago.
Crazy.
And it's still the golden staple for RTS, but it's made by people who have not been inspired so much by the past generations of RTS, because it's kind of, well, there have been some RTS games before that, but it's not mandatory at all.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one.
Absolutely. But sure. So average gamer is a child. So we know that this is just statistically not true. It's not even worth repeating much. It's like an old stereotype, often that was pushed by certain groups. I think average gamer is now like 35 or something like that, like super high average. It's
because I mean the statistics are from kind of 30 years ago. And those same average people who were the average gamer, they have grown up, and 30 years later, now there are 45. There have been 15, now there are 45. It's the same people.
Exactly. Like they indeed used to be 15 one day, but they got old.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
I mean, if I'm not wrong, the statistics for gender, by the way, as well. So it's like 40% of gamers are female.
Yeah, it's pretty split. It's pretty even split now.
And people are thinking like, oh, the average gamer is like a boy, but no, the average is the middle ground between a boy and a girl, kind of. If you look at it from the statistics point of view, right? So it doesn't matter. I mean, people love games. Games are fun. Okay, we play other types of games as well, like physical games. Toddlers play with whatever. Rubber balls or something, okay, with toys. We love games. It's just human nature, and video games is just a digital extension of play. And we live in a digital world, so we extend our play to the digital world as well, just as we extend everything else into the digital world, right? There's digital dating, digital social media, after all, digital communication like we do now. Everything is digital, so games are just same. So people love games, and they...
Yeah. And one thing that I think important to be aware of, that historically games, like playing, has been used as a teaching tool. Fundamentally, we play because we are trying to learn some skill. And we are just doing the exact same thing with computer games right now. You're just practicing different skills. Like you're playing economic simulator. Strategy games we keep repeating to it in this podcast, but strategy games are just easiest example to explain it. Like you learn a management, you learn allocation of resources, how the markets work, all that just by playing some strategy game. And all that is easily transferable into you eventually being a manager in some company.
Yeah. Factorio is the best game ever, by the way, for management. Just saying. If someone wonders what games they should play to get better at logistics and engineering and stuff, Factorio. Like, if you play, let's say, 20 hours of Factorio, I would argue that it would make you a better engineer than actually spending 20 hours or learning engineering. At some point, at least. It's crazy.
I have a similar recommendation. It's X4. We talked about it before as well. It's like a space building game that's all about logistics and pushing different sides against each other. So you can you can basically supply all of them with weapons while they fight each other. It's great. So let's move on. And now let's go for something a little bit controversial, or a little bit more controversial, spicier.
Love that.
So AI will replace most developers soon. So we both are quite keeping eye on how AI is progressing, both at GameReady and in our personal projects and stuff. So what do you think about that? What do you
Okay,
think about AI game dev?
I will start commenting on that with a bit of just a small background check, let's say. Okay, so I actually a few days ago I compared my stats of production of code compared to traditional senior developer, software engineer. Okay, so actually in the past 6 months, even while I do management, which, well, I'm a CEO, I'm managing mainly, so but I still do a lot of vibe coding. Okay, so actually I have produced 100 times more lines of code than traditional senior developer. Okay, traditional. I'm not saying nowadays. Nowadays, everyone produces more lines of code, but just as a benchmark, I said 100. So for each line of code traditionally made by per unit of time per senior developer, I make 100 times more, which is insane to think about that when we compare it, right? So of course, much of it is junk because vibe coding produces a lot of steps that you need to remake. So like there's 1,000 lines of code written and they're like, that's not what I want. Remake that now. Okay, so it's trash. It's bloated. Let's say 90% of that is bloated. So you're left with still factor of 10x the amount of code, right? So I do a lot of coding. I do a lot of it. And I also come from traditional software engineering background, and I have been doing that for over a decade. And I have quite a good point of view on it because I'm very, very, very hardcore in that field since day one. Okay, so I've been doing AI actually far before LLMs got on. So will it replace humans? Yes and no, because it will replace some part of what we're doing, and it's already there. I mean, it's already slowly replacing more and more and more types of our activity, and this is completely fine because it lets us deal with the more interesting stuff, in my opinion. Now, yeah, there are people who very much enjoy writing code manually, and they enjoy it much more than prompting. Sure. Okay, but it's not about what you enjoy, it's more about what you have to do if you want to be producing value, right? So value production algorithm changes. It means that we need to adapt the ways we develop. So if we are left with, let's say, only 10% of the responsibility and 90% is done by AI, cool. Then it means that you can work the same amount of hours but produce 10 times more value if you collaborate with AI, which means that studios can produce better games. They can spend the same amount of time to produce actually much higher value games, and software in general, right? And also more games. And what's the most exciting for me is that so far producing a game takes years. It's a giant project. And very often it's just too long for the team to even keep being a team. The team can just collapse in the middle of the duration. And so many games didn't survive until the release because the team just couldn't make it together. They couldn't continue because time passes and priorities change. So with shorter iteration times because of AI, you can actually produce very fun games in much less time because of that, which actually means that many more teams will survive until the end. And that is pretty exciting for me.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie.
It is. We're gonna see more cooler games.
Yep.
So I think
also bad games.
Oh, of course. We'll just see more games. That's just statistics of it, right? The more games produced means more bad games and more good games. It's just it's that famous phrase that like 90% of everything is crap. So like if we produce more games, more of them will be good and more of them will be bad, obviously.
Yep. So you can produce crap faster, you learn from it, then you produce a good game.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And I feel,
if you don't,
I feel like one thing that I think people really miss here is that producing crap is a way to get to producing something good. Because a lot of people kind of feel, it feels to me like a lot of people try to kind of put it into categories where it's like, okay, this developer produced crap, I'm not gonna look at anything of theirs ever again. But then if they happen to encounter of the same developer the 6th game and not the 2nd game, all of a sudden they love that game and they wonder why no one is genius like this person. Because part of creative process is just producing a lot of bad stuff, which teaches you how to produce good stuff.
Yeah, the person was a failure for 7-8 years just to wake up into an overnight success.
Exactly, it's an overnight success all over again. So I would like to focus on the fact that we program because we want to make games. We don't do the opposite, right? We don't program and just happen to make games. Most of us, that is. So
it's not only about programmers, by the way. It's also artists. So it's the same picture for all the roles, really. For audio production, for video production, for art, digital art, 3D, 2D. It's just much of the work we do today in all those fields is going to be replaced by AI. Not the people, but the tasks, which leaves us with a different set of responsibilities. So our roles shift. Okay?
Absolutely. Yeah. And like, let's be real here. There is so much busy work we have to do in game development. Like good 70 to 80%, I would even hedge to bet, is a work that no one really wants to do. Like, I don't need to write basic AI for the 50th time for the same game or similar game. It's like, we really can outsource this all to AI now, because this code has been written thousands of times by millions of different people. So if we can, we should really focus on how do we get to making games faster. Like, the faster we can produce the games, the less time we have to spend by doing stuff that is boring and how everyone has done before, the faster we can get to producing good games. Okay, let's move on then. So remote work isn't viable for game development. So I would actually like you to answer this, because you started Game Ready from the start as a remote company, right?
Actually, no. Actually, it was physical for around 2 weeks. Okay. It was physical for 2 weeks. But no, yeah, it's a remote company for 99% of the timeline. Yeah, long before it was mainstream, let's say. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, so among the first movers.
Yeah, very much so. I do see news about it all the time, that some game companies try to move back to office, and there was a significant move to work from home during COVID and later, and now a lot of companies seem to try to move back to office. So to kind of give it a bit more balanced view, I do think there are advantages to working in office and there are advantages to working from home. I think it would be a very faulty premise to try to claim that one is inherently better than other. I do think there is a significant benefit, especially in creative fields, to sort of an in-person dynamic, where you kind of like happen to meet someone, you go to coffee, and then some new idea shows up there. I think that's something that's difficult to recreate when everyone works remotely. It's something that we struggle with when we try to kind of have some spontaneous meeting, and often we start meeting about something and something new shows up on that meeting that we kind of sync onto something, because we don't have these coffee breaks. So I would say I would generally focus more companies on working from home, especially because there is so many benefits. Like, everyone can start working when they want, they can produce the value at the time where they actually want to produce the value. We can now think without an issue, but be aware that there are trade-offs that you are taking when you are having your company working remote, where you are having your studio working remote, and you kind of need to put in systems that help you offset that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, it all boils down to what is actually your options as an individual, and then how you deal with the pros and cons of it. So there's strategies for both, really. But the question is, what are you going to do? So are you going to search for a job based on, oh, I want only remote, or I want only physical, or I'm going to go with whatever fits me by other criteria, like maybe the genre or the work culture of that company, and I'm going to adapt to what's the culture in that company, if it requires me to come physically or if it's going to be a remote one. And then how do I adapt, right? So there's strategy for both. Now, at the same time, I don't think that it matters too much on deciding which one is better, because just like you said, it has pros and cons, and for different people, different pros and different cons, they have different weight to them. So let's say for me personally, I am always super accented on having time efficiency. So for me, spending time on driving to an office is a no-go, because in that time I can produce so much stuff. And the last thing I want to do is, well, I don't want to have 5, 6, 7 hours per week wasted on driving. Now, if I would be enjoying driving, that's a different story, right? Because it's not wasted time anymore. It may be you're meditating while you're on the road. Maybe you're walking there, and that's cool, sports refresher, whatever it is for you. Maybe it's so close to you that you don't even have to spend so much time on that. So there's just, again, pros and cons. Different people they have different priorities, right? One cool thing that I myself very much like on working from home, I have a home office, so I work from office at my home pretty much, is that working from home gives you kind of unconstrained flow. So you're not constrained to have output when you're at the office. If you have flow, if you're feeling like it, you can keep producing value whenever you are. Okay, so if you're at home, you can just go to your office in 30 seconds. You see? So the main problem I think is the kind of the main con for people who don't like working from home is that they probably never have had a separate room for that.
I do think that plays a significant role. Like working from home while you have like kids around dancing around you, and wife is also working from home, and you got like 3 rooms, the whole family. Then yes, that's really tough. But if you have your own office, you are lucky enough to do that, then it's much better. And I would also mention, generally, if you work from home, it's much more possible for you to move away from the city. Because if you have to go to office, you probably live in the city. But if you work from home, you can move further away where rents are much cheaper. Everything is always cheaper when you are further away from the city, and you can afford to have more of that space. It's kind of a trade-off that you personally have to decide if it makes sense for you.
Yeah. And also, since you produce more value, it means that more of your time is allocated to actually get paid for work and not just waste it on driving, whatever it is. If you pay for fuel or your company pays for fuel, it's still time, which is idle time. So even if your company pays you for the time it takes you to drive, it's not time that you spent on producing value, which means that you would be able to produce more value in a different workspace potentially. Absolutely. Which means that you would be able to get more money for that. So that means that you have means to justify an additional office in your real estate.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the next one.
Yeah, let's move on. The more you work in game dev, the less you play games. So that's one of those that actually sounds like a complete nonsense, but
it's not nonsense. It has quite some good logic to that.
Yeah, and I would say that a lot of people I know that work in game dev do tend to play less and less games as they kind of progress in their career. But I think part of it is just a natural, you move on with your career, you get older, you start your family, you just have less time to play games. So I'm not even sure if it's inherently anything to do with games.
It's just kind of getting older means,
Yeah.
statistically at least, playing less games. It's not a mandatory, it's not a rule or something. It's a matter of things for many people. I agree with that, but also one point I think is that when you develop games, developing a game is fun. And it kind of replaces the need in playing games so much. So instead of, let's say, playing games for 8 hours, suddenly you, let's say, develop 6 hours and you play 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that's natural distribution of time happening there. It's just fun. You just need games less because you enjoy the process.
I would actually say that I see a lot of game developers just start hobby projects, start like a small indie game they do, or small 3D models. So that's definitely, to your point, that a lot of developers we all like game development, right? General, it's very rare to have someone working in game development who doesn't like games and doesn't like the process itself. So it's very common that like they work 8 hours, 6 hours as a programmer, and then they go home and create their own small project for a couple more hours instead of playing. It is really common.
So you don't do less with games. You just play them per se less.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move on. So we are getting more into production questions. So optimization should happen only at the end of the development cycle. And by optimization here, we are of course talking about, let's say, making the game run on a stable frame rate on the target hardware.
Yeah. I would say that the answer, if you ask me, that the answer will depend on who do I speak with. So to some people, I will say yes. To some people, I will say no, because it depends on what their tendency is. So there are people who focus on optimizing on the go. And I was like that, by the way. I was kind of obsessed with optimization, over-obsessed, because I come from C++ background, assembly background, so have been dealing with super low latency projects. So I'm pretty good in optimization, and I have had it as a habit to just optimize everything on the go. But then the problem is that you tend to remake and throw away so much of your code, of your early code. So you optimize trash pretty much. It's like opening your garbage bin and just starting to clean your trash inside the garbage bin. It's a waste of time, right? So with that being said, though, the further forward you go with your project, the less of the produced code is gonna statistically end up as trash. So then the further away you are from the starting point, the more sense it makes to optimize something, right? But then you also should ask yourself a question: is this code gonna be played? Like, is this actually a code that's gonna for sure end up on Steam, let's say? If yes, then okay, it makes more sense. But even then, what's better, releasing a mal-optimized game or just delaying the release because you keep on optimizing? Typically, the optimization doesn't matter so much. It matters much more to actually release it and get feedback that this game has potential, but it's just so laggy. It's so buggy. The frame rate is so trashy. I just can't play, but the game has potential. And you're like reading that and you're, thank you. Because now I have the data. Okay, now I know that if I spend time optimizing it, people will actually play it. Right? This is data. And if you do it in the early access, then okay, you don't ruin your launch, the real one. That's fine. Early access exists for that. So if we wouldn't have early access, that's a different story. But let's face it, that's the reality of today's world. We have early access. We need to iterate our developments in a smart way. So optimization, the hell with it.
So I have a slightly different take on it, where I would say you should not spend more time with optimization than you need, but you should be aware of the optimization from the start. So There is a huge difference between saying like, oh, don't worry about optimization, you will fix it all on the end. That's a terrible idea.
It's terrible.
You should absolutely be aware of what your few features and the things you do, what impact will they have on the performance of the game. If you are not aware of it, you are in deep trouble. But if you are aware of it and you are consciously moving the decision of fixing it because you know it will be maybe 5% extra time to fix it later than fix it now, that's a trade-off you are willing to make, and you are doing it because you know that's worth it. That's a very different than being like, don't optimize at all, don't think about it.
No, I agree with that. It's just the balance point. But at the same time, there's also the goal. So is your goal to actually release the game, or is your goal to learn? So if it's a hobby project and if it's a learning project, for example, for our students that are listening to that. So if you are a newbie yet and you're thinking, should I be optimizing now or not? The answer is probably yes, you should be. And you should actually even try to optimize it pretty hard. Why? Just so you understand how optimization works. So then when you develop and you have to make a choice on how you develop, like, let's say if you make an art piece and you should choose if you will go to this artistic direction or to this artistic direction, you will actually know to choose better because you know what's better for optimization. Because you've already gone through that. Same with code. If you write code which is gonna affect your FPS more or less, you'll be more aware of what actually affects that if you try to optimize it. So get yourself through that at least a few times so you get a better sense. So now you are kind of, search for the shrooms and you'll be much better in finding them naturally, just organically. Yeah. So I think we both agree that's right.
Yes. And by you being aware of what causes the impact, you will kind of automatically adjust your process. So you create less of the actual issues.
Without even the trade-offs. So sometimes, it's 5 hours development here, 5 hours here, but this is going to be a more optimal code. And if you're just mindlessly, I'll just pick out one that is just more comfy for me and whatever. Okay, cool. But it's the same time of development, and this one is more optimal, and you know it only because you have optimized a few times already, right? So just if you didn't ever do that now, before you proceed with your actual game that you're developing. If it's an educational educational game, do it. If it's a production game, a real game that you want to release, you will need it. You will save yourself headache. So again, do it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on. So every bug is obvious and easy to fix. So that's just straight up nonsense. It's actually sometimes very, very difficult. Even if you're a really good programmer architect that designed the systems really well, sometimes the bugs come from unexplainable places where they just don't make sense and you just can't understand it, even though you very often run into like a core engine issues or even below engine issues that just don't make sense, but they create a certain bug, and that's nothing you can kind of guess. There is no way for you to logically, based on how the system works, understand why this bug is created this way. Usually there is, but it's not uncommon that it just happens. Literally a hardware issue.
Yep. But I would also say that now with vibe coding AI tools, it's gonna be easier and easier to fix bugs, and it's gonna be more and more automated as well. So we don't know how easy it will be or how hard it will be, but I think that probably at least 80% of bugs will be solvable with just much less time than now and much faster. And around 20% of bugs will still kind of remain annoying, manual, long process bugs. But since all the rest of the development becomes faster, it means that you can actually spend more of your time on fixing those annoying ones. So everything still gets faster. So I believe games will become much more stable because of that.
I agree. I would add here one point that may not be intuitive. When we say vibe coding or AI agents helping here, I don't think it's just the fact that you have a LLM that goes through all your code and sees, okay, this is a clearly null pointer or this is some issue and I will fix that. I think it's combination of this, being able to analyze big amount of code, and actual agents being able to play the game much more times and many times faster than a regular player would. Instead of you having 10 testers coming every Sunday, now you are going to be able to have overnight, for every build of your game, the AI agents can run through it, act like a complete idiot, like most gamers will, and then actually point out things that you would not expect to show up. I know you're laughing, but guys, you haven't, this is something that you as a developer will just run into. I'm saying idiots as a joke, obviously. I don't think every gamer is an idiot. But you set up a system and a game in a certain way, and the gamer will come and do things that's absolutely unintuitive. It will make no sense to you. It will make no sense to any tester. It will just be completely unintuitive and make no sense. But the AI will be able to find that use case and even fix it. So it's a combination of those, better playtesting and better code analysis.
Yeah, but funnily enough, because of all the automation, people will probably work less hours in general. So they will spend more of their time on leisure, which means that gaming is gonna grow more and more people will actually spend time on gaming. Many people who stop playing games, suddenly they will have time for that again, right? And because of that, you're just gonna end up naturally with more organic play testers for your game, and you won't even need AI so much for that. Potentially, I don't know. We will see. We'll see about that.
Perhaps
But
it will be
probably a combination of the two. Probably.
So let's move on to the next one. So polish doesn't take much time. Do you want to answer that? What does that even mean? I know.
Polish takes infinite amount of time. How about that?
Exactly. Yeah,
So
I agree with that.
It's NA. The answer is NA, not applicable.
You can always polish more. Yeah. I wouldn't even say there is a obvious point for almost anything where the polish is enough. Polish is enough when you release it. That's the point where it's enough. It's the times that you have.
But it has diminishing results.
Yes, absolutely.
So at some point you just say it's good enough, and that's it. But the thing is that the definition of good enough, well, just let your playtesters judge for you. If you're the developer, you will always see what you can improve. But the players, even they can see what you can improve, but they don't see as much as you. They focus on the value they get from it, not the value that you can squeeze out of it potentially. The players are not developers. They care about the current state of the game, and they care about their wish list. They don't care about satisfying the needs of other gamers. So they will ultimately judge if they like it now and what would they love to see next. And if you have so many gamers, players of your game saying about the same things, like, hey, could you introduce multiplayer? Or, hey, could you add more weapons into the game, or whatever it is, then, okay, so you get a direction for development, which is also, well, literally oriented on what will make them happy and not on what you think is lacking in the game.
Yeah. Absolutely. I will say there is a bit of a caveat where we say, yes, the polish is technically endless, but usually the point of polish is to give player feedback. So you are polishing something because you want to give player feedback that something happened. So when you shoot, you see a VFX, right? You see some muzzle flash, and then you see and you hear a sound. Like those two things, perhaps you can do camera shake or some animation, right? Those few things give you like 80% of the value. Like you are saying, that's basically where afterwards you get the diminishing return. So you could probably make a good rule of thumb that you polished enough when you communicate to player enough what happened inside the game. Like that he fully gets that this is what happened. Okay. All right. Let's get a connected question. Another year of polish will always save a falling game or failing game.
I would say that the longer the development is, the lower are the chances to release.
Oh, that's interesting. I probably agree. Yeah.
So I would say that's better to publish as an early access than to hold it for one more year. To release it right away as whatever, full release. I'm always for early access. And this is, by the way, the funniest point is that I typically don't like early access games myself as a gamer. But it doesn't matter. I mean, as a developer, you need to think logistically. What will help you release that game? So if you want to produce a full published game, you will have better chance at doing that if you go through early access. Okay. And is it moral? Like, so you're kind of putting out maybe, well, your game is not trash, but you think it's trash, and you're like, oh man, I will release it just because they told me to release it, and I don't love it at all. It's trashy, it's buggy, it's unstable. I will still release it in the early access. You're like, yeah, but my players will just hate it. Okay, but you know what? If they don't play it, all right, then it sucks. Yet today it sucks today. Or maybe you didn't market it well enough, but that's another story. But if they do play, it means that they enjoy it enough to invest their time in it. It means that it gives them value. You didn't force them into that. It's their choice. You know, if they like it, if they enjoy it, and they also help you develop it further away, and it raises your chances to publish the full game, which will be the ultimate value for the players, that's the moral thing to do. So it doesn't matter if you personally, as a developer, like playing early access games. You're not the judge on that one. Let the players be the judges.
Yeah, I agree. In majority of the cases, the benefit you get from a early user player feedback much outweighed any negative publicity that you get there in vast majority of the cases. I will say there are few exceptions. If you have like a story-based super linear game, doesn't probably make sense to go early access, because you have to always think about what's your value proposition. And in single player story, not even single player, in a story linear game, it's experiencing the story, it's enjoying the entertainment that
unless the early access is not a poor full experience, but a full short
prologue
experience.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
you can make a prologue for sure. You can make something like that. You just have to kind of be aware of why do players play your game. That's all the way back to the beginning. You need to understand why gamers or players
it has to be fun.
Your game.
Early access has to be fun.
Yes, absolutely. They need to get the hint of that experience they will get there. Right? So let's move on then. Is there an idea person solely responsible for everything idea, creativity-wise on game, let's say?
Depends on project, really. I wouldn't say that there is any standard to that. It's just super variable. I mean, any team decides on that. Typically, there is a core founder or core founders who drive it forward. And I would also say that typically when there's one person who decides on that, the chances of the team succeeding go higher because there's just less conflicts, okay? So instead of fighting on what will happen and what's better and then ruining the team, it's better to go some direction, but at least to have some proper curated direction which is done by someone who understands what he or she is doing.
Yeah.
That's the most important aspect.
Yeah.
But
I would say the big... Okay, go on. I'm morning.
But
all right.
The point is that the more people you have in the team and the more they express their ideas, the better it is for the decision making. So if there is a curator or curators, it doesn't mean that others should shut up. No, the opposite.
Yeah, of course.
So ideation is a collaborative process, but there should be someone who decides what's going in and what's not, especially when there are a lot of newbies in the team. And there should be newbies in the team. That's my opinion on production. Okay, there should be experienced and newbies in the game production.
Yeah, mixes tends to do better.
Yes, and game developers are excited about the game they make, so they will almost always have shit ton of ideas. and
Absolutely.
they don't know if those ideas are good or are they gonna be correct for the market. So it might be an idea which sounds just great artistically. It's a great artistic idea, great artistic decision, but it's a poor financial decision. Like, let's add this feature. Okay, so we make a 2D game. Let's add a 3D level into that. Well, it might be a gimmick worth the marketing, but typically it will be so hard to produce that it's just not gonna give you enough value back, and you're just better off doing something else instead.
Absolutely. You do need someone who has the vision of the game, who understands why the game is the way it is. Typically, that's a game designer in a smaller team. And I would even say the smaller the team, the less there is a need for a dedicated person to do that. Because usually if you have like three people, it's easier to kind of make sure that you are synced with everything because you speak with each other all the time. The moment you get to a point where not everyone speaks one-on-one with everyone all the time, you tend to need like a catalyzer. You need a person that catalyst, let's say, that sees the game clearly, talks with everyone else, and gets all these ideas from everyone. Not everything comes from him, but he is the one that picks which ideas make sense. That's creative designer in smaller team, creative director in a bigger team. In a smaller team, it tends to be just game designer because there is usually just one game designer. But
gameplay
there needs to
designer, you mean?
Usually it's called game designer. And
but
if you're looking for roles,
game designer as in the one who designs the gameplay, or the one who designs art for the game?
Usually, if you look for roles, game designer is the one that designs gameplay. If you look at standard,
I just don't
roles.
like to call it game designer because it's
I agree.
gray area.
I agree. It's confusing.
Definition.
100% with you that it's confusing, but that's what's usually used. So we can give that a caveat that it's weird terminology, but this is what we gotta use.
Yeah, sure. I call it gameplay designer.
Yeah, gameplay designer is more accurate for sure. So let's move to the last question, and that's do you need a college degree to work in games? So what do you think?
No.
Do we need that? Okay.
The answer is no.
Yes, it's almost a complete nonsense. There is an argument to be made that there are certain colleges or certain places where you train that they have such a good prestige that it can give you some extra points when you're trying to get hired. But that's just piece of paper that gives you bonus. Like, you are just much better off getting an internship in some company, working somewhere for free, than going into school somewhere. Diploma is nice, but it's nice for you. Like, in game development industry, in my experience, nothing matters more than your portfolio. Like, if potentially, I will say this, if you have a equal portfolio, which is impossible, just to be clear, if you have an equal portfolio and one of you have diploma and doesn't have diploma, potentially it can help you there. There is also sometimes studios that have it as a requirement, but just sort of like a hint to you guys, usually just because they have listed that they require you to have a CS diploma or a game design diploma, it does not mean you have to have a game design diploma. It's just a filter. Send that email anyway. Never let that stop you. Like, it's completely irrelevant. Your portfolio is 10,000 times more important than any diploma you could possibly have.
Yeah, and by the way, it's funny that we say it because we grant diplomas, right? We Game Ready actually train people and give them diplomas in the end of the education path. It's one of the services we provide is actually this hardcore game education, specifically on Unreal Engine. That's what we do. But we always say that, hey, we are granting the diploma because we can, because why not? But that's not the goal. That's not the goal of the program. The goal of the program is to actually get you experienced and knowledgeable to be able to produce the high value which will get you hired. Because to make a portfolio, you need high value production, high value output. And how do you get that? By just knowing how to get stuff done. And how to get hired and all that stuff. It's much more important than getting the diploma. It won't hurt, but if you have to prioritize one over another, then always choose the experience. Always choose the knowledge and the experience. The question is, how do you get this experience? So we give that. There's also alternative ways. Sure, everyone will decide how they get that.
Absolutely. We even have it structured very much on purpose that you cannot get diploma unless you have finished few projects and you have a portfolio that gets you hired, or that has high chance of getting you hired. And we have that as a condition on purpose. Like realistically, we actually just want our students to have that portfolio. And one of the few ways how to get them to get that portfolio is to promise them diploma. Realistically, this is what we do because we know that the only thing that really matters is the portfolio, but a lot of people are used because of school, a lot of parents are used to having diplomas, so we have it as a condition. But we know it, we know that the only important thing is really the portfolio.
Yep.
Okay. I would say we are done with that. So guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for taking this lovely hour to listen to us babble. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We have much content coming your way. We're gonna be releasing many more podcasts and other educational shorts and videos that you get to watch.
Only with us, by the way. The podcast will have some cool veteran guests coming up. So stay tuned. It's gonna be fun with the journey.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe and have a good one. Bye.
Thank you.